This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, where in a single moment you can recognize your brilliance and change your life. This is a transformational hour that covers an array of topics that demonstrate how individuals use their native talents, as shown in their name, to look at the ordinary in extraordinary ways. Albert Einstein once said that everybody's a genius. Why would one of the smartest people on the planet declare that everyone is a genius unless he knew that to be true? At the end of every show, you'll hear clues on how you can recognize your own innate genius. All over the world, people have many, many diverse interests. And in that vein, people have asked about different occupations and areas of life that have highly interested them. People want to know how highly successful people have managed to achieve their genius mindset by utilizing the gifts that are shown in their name using namology science. Some of the letters asked about how does someone express their creative talents and how does someone share those gifts with others in such a way that all benefit. Our expert tonight is Christine Wright, who has developed her genius in the area of being able to assist others in blossoming into who they are meant to be. Christine earned a Bachelor of Science degree in dance education from New York University Steinhardt School. She continued her education at New York University and earned a Master of Arts degree in Interdisciplinary Arts from the Gallatin School. She is a certified seminar leader and a certified practitioner of Neuro-Linguistic-Programming, known as NLP. Christine is also skilled in the body alignment technique of Ideokinesis, which uses imagery to enhance range of motion, resulting in a more fluid range of movement and improved physical alignment. Christine also founded the Grief Recovery Method, helpful as she engaged in end-of-life care giving for close relatives, locally and long distance. She has both management and administrative experience in careers ranging from retailing to publishing to performing dance. Christine was active in community-based organizations and a member of the Youth and Education Committee of our local community board in Brooklyn, New York. Christine founded and operated an inner city after-school program, which she managed for 10 years. The Inner City Cultural Arts Program offered arts and academic classes to 10 to 14-year-olds from a dozen neighborhood public and private schools. As elementary and secondary school teacher, Christine incorporated Ideokinesis in a high school dance classes where she taught. Students were highly receptive to the technique. She studied coaching with Coach Finn International, and she continues to take workshops and trainings with other coaches and wellness practitioners. She uses her varied background as well as her intuition to help individuals recognize their aptitudes and increase their strengths. Thus, she aspires to assist others in living authentic lives. Christine Wright's name indicates that she can be persistent in going after what she desires and a bit stubborn when deeply believing in something. She is a constant learner, which is evident in her varied background, as well as having an independent and rebellious spirit. Christine has a generous spirit, according to her name, and wishes the absolute best for everyone. Welcome to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You radio show, Christine.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I'm so happy to be here with you tonight.
You have such a varied background, Christine. How did you ever decide what to study next?
I just love learning. So when I saw something that interested me, I just went for it. And that's actually why I did my graduate program the way I could, because I was allowed to take so many electives that I could, the core requirements were short so that I could take and study the various programs that I wanted to. In my undergraduate work, I liked, doing dance. I saw so many body alignment techniques that I really found helpful and new and exciting. So I wanted to continue that in my graduate work, and I was able to do that by doing the program that I did.
Wow, that just sounds so exciting. But you've gone from art to teaching to now helping others become more authentic. Do you ever want to go backwards and do something that you already did again or incorporate it in as you're going forwards?
Sometimes I have, but I see a connection in all of it. I think really at heart, I'm a teacher, and I've worked with different age groups. I started with high schoolers, and I worked my way down, if you will, in age. And I think now I'm interested in teaching adults, and I get to do that through the coaching, which is really very non-directive. However, just pointing out things to people that they know that they don't seem to recognize it in the heat of the moment is just very rewarding for me. So it comes to the same thing, but I may go back to teaching formally at some point, but right now this really seems to fit for me.
Well, I know that you've helped so many people along the way and have so many varied interests that we're looking forward to having you on the show today and exploring all of those. Please stay tuned to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You with Sharon Lynn Wyeth, who can be heard on knowthename.com and on xzbn.net. After the break, we'll find out how Christine came to knowing how to lead a stress-free life and how you can too.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Nemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created nemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere, Florida. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine such as hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining rooms can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you visit, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic downtown Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best.
If you're a seeker, don't miss the inspiring book Shamanic Awakening, Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Cochran's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers throughout the Americas. Sandy's initiations across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt, combined with her knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth, influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private readings, sacred international journeys, a meditative CD, and her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate your earth walk and create a deeper connection to yourself. Find this and more at her website, starwalkervisions.com.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which is being heard on xzbn.net and knowthename.com. Our guest tonight is Christine Wright, whose website is stressfreenow.info. Okay, we want to start with Christine on what is Ideokinesis? How does it work? Who benefits from it? And how did you get interested in it?
Every single person would benefit from it. I think it's a rather exotic technique, exotic in that not many people know about it, but we all use our bodies. And most of us don't know the bones that we have, the muscles that we have, how they work. We know when we have aches and pains, but most of us don't know about our bodies. I discovered Ideokinesis when in my senior year at NYU, it was a required course for dancers because as dancers, we use our bodies all the time. And I, for all intent and purposes, and I think so many people, fell in love with my teacher, the late Andre Bernard. Andre had, he just had an extraordinary background, and he learned this technique. It has a lineage. Mabel Todd was a person who had an injury. The doctor said that, she was never going to be well, and she developed this technique. And basically, it's using imagery to correct our movement. The idea is that you actually have the image, you don't move, because once you move, you're engaging your old neuromuscular patterns, which may be what's harming you, that especially people who, let's say, have a repetitive stress injury in movement, the alignment may be incorrect. So you would use an image to imagine the correct way of moving and being still while you have the imagery, and over time that corrects your movement. And there are what's called 9 lines of action. For example, people would say stand up straight. Not really, because your spine is curved. What you want to have is a balance of the curves in your spine. So in Ideokinesis, you would imagine those curves being close to the center, to a straight central line in your body, an imaginary line. But you wouldn't deliberately try and straighten your spine. If you did, you'd fall over. It's the curves in your spine that allow you to stand, but your muscular balance, you may be tight someplace, loose or weak someplace, and that's where the tension comes in. And we usually when you start to study Ideokinesis, we do it in a prone position, in what's called a constructive rest position, where the bones of your body are put in a way that would take the least muscular effort. Because when your muscles are not engaged, you'd be better able to use the imagery to change your movement.
So,
does that make sense to you?
Yes, but how did you get started? I mean, what did you learn first? I mean, it's still a little bit vague. So How did it begin? What would you do first for somebody?
The first thing, and my teacher was so theatrical, everybody just burst out laughing because he asked for a volunteer. You lie down on the floor in a mat, And then he approached her with a piece of cloth that sort, he had torn sheets to use to tie the legs together, because your legs are bent at an angle, and without the tie, depending on how your muscles are, your leg would fall from one side to another. So he brought, and we were all wondering, what is this fella doing, tying this person's legs parallel? But it's to have the legs parallel, which it's hard to hold if you're using your muscles. And you would imagine your body as a suit of clothing filled with sand, and you would imagine the sand falling out of the suit of clothing. And that's to get your body to settle against the floor. Some people, if they lie on the floor, there's a curve under their lumbar spine, and you'd want that over time, that curve to lessen so it's closer to the floor. So by imagining that the front of the body is collapsing against the back of the body as the sand pours out of this imaginary suit, your muscles would release and let go.
Now, a lot of people get that flat back, but they have to raise their knees to get it. So this is without raising the knees.
Correct. The knees are raised in this, and we also use foam rubber props. So we'd put foam rubber under the feet to get the weight back into the torso of the body, so that the weight of the legs and the weight of the arms are going into the torso of the body, not into the limbs. So in this position, you're using the least muscular effort. And by using the cushions and the ties, you're helping the muscles to hold the position and not the body to hold the position.
When did you know that you had an interest in helping people overall, and that this was the best way for you to do that? Because I know you've got this varied background. Did you start seeing really good results, or, I mean, how did that transition occur?
Well, I started seeing, results in myself and other people in that class. It was a one-semester class, and I found it so helpful that I kept studying it and I basically studied with my teacher till the end of his life. And, over time, it's not just lying in the prone position, it's moving around. And when I started to teach in the high school, and I was teaching high school dance, the class took to it, if you will, like ducks to water. They loved it because it made them feel relaxed. They weren't overusing their muscles to move. And they saw their posture improve. And I was just satisfied by seeing their progress, because at that age, their bodies could move very well. But if you dance over time and you're out of alignment or using extra muscular effort to do things, this is what will wear the body down over time and cause injuries later in life. So by using the body in the best possible alignment with the greatest range of motion, your body is going to last longer, because depending on the type of dancing you're doing, it's a lot of pounding that the body is taking over time. The jumping, and dancers practice for such long hours in the day, so you really want your body to last. But even as I worked with other people over time, adults, most people, if you touch your shoulder, it feels like a piece of rock or a piece of wood. And using this imagery would help you release your shoulder muscles, or people would have tension in their neck, their back. So by knowing this technique, it really does help over time to release undue muscular effort and to increase range of motion. I love seeing people have ease in their life. And I feel better, because if other people are happier, then they're less likely to take out their stress or their unhappiness on me. So I consider it a win-win.
Well, I danced with the San Diego Ballet Company for 2 years when I was much younger in my life. And I had never heard of this. And I was thinking, when you were first describing it to me, that this might have helped at that time, so we didn't have to take so many Epsom salt baths. I mean, trying to get us to relax. So
very definitely it would have.
So thinking about how this gets the body to relax, Would that help people that have a hard time getting to sleep? Would that help them if they knew how to do this first? Do you think it would cause them to sleep easier, or would the body's very relaxed to fall into a sleep?
Yes, it would. One of the things, though, that my teacher said, because I believe someone once brought it up, they talked about having trouble going to sleep, and I've used this because it does help, that if your mind is racing with so many thoughts, it might be helpful simply to write it down so that you feel you don't forget it. If you spend 5 minutes writing down a few things and know that the thoughts won't go away, and then release that. It's there on paper. It's not going to go away, and then go to sleep. If that's not working for you, certainly the ideokinesis would help, or simply, get up and do something for a short time and then let your mind release and go to sleep.
Okay. When you were learning this, were there stumbling blocks along the way? And if so, how did you overcome them?
There were a few, because I had been studying other things in addition to this. For example, one of the premises of ideokinesis is that the front of the body, you imagine the energy of the body going up to give you tensile support in holding your body upright. But in some other techniques, and then in the back, you imagine your compression support as a line of energy going down. But in some other techniques, they would tell you to go up in the back. And this would confuse me. So I would ask my teacher about it. And, he was a purist in the way he studied. There are other techniques that mix styles. And I actually liked doing the one style. But I also studied a bit of the Alexander technique. I don't know if some of your listeners may be familiar with this, some not. The Feldenkrais technique. There are probably hundreds by now of different movement techniques, and most of them were developed by people who had an injury that the doctor said, you're not going to be able to walk again, you're not going to be able to move again. And these people, these pioneers, didn't accept that, and they developed a system that helped them get better. And they started to teach it, and they're practitioners in so many different disciplines of body alignment techniques.
Have you studied some of those other ones, like the Alexander technique or the Feldenkrais?
Yes, I have studied the Alexander, the Feldenkrais. There's another one called kinetic awareness. I think those are the primary ones that I've studied. And
So how did becoming a stress-free coach change your life? How did it change you once you knew all of this and you started helping people?
I am not totally sure that I would describe it as changing my life, because my core always seemed the same to me. I enjoy helping people. So it was another way of helping them. Probably the change was it gave me more personal freedom than I had in my other jobs. As you know, teaching, it's a much more structured environment in terms of what I'm doing, and I'm not working one-on-one. When I had my after-school program, I deliberately designed it to have smaller classes, but I was really an administrator there, not a classroom teacher. So with my coaching, I can have either small groups, and I can decide what I want to do and how I want to do it. So that would be actually the change, the structure of it. But internally, it has always felt the same to me because I enjoy helping people. I like to see people feel better. I know I like it when I feel stress-free, so I enjoy sharing that with others.
Well, definitely it would give you more freedom. As teachers, as we all know, need to be there at the same time the kids are going to be there. And so they have very structured days and very limited amount of time to do other things. Stay tuned to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. This show is dedicated to leading a more stress-free life. After the break, we'll find out some of what it takes to lead that stress-free life. Stay tuned.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the four corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. Our guest tonight is Christine Wright, whose website is stressfreenow.info. Christine, before the break, you were telling us about what you would do or with teaching and everything and helping others with their stress-free lives. What's the biggest change you've seen in people as a whole after they've learned this ideokinesis?
They have a way to unwind. They have a way to relax. And it's something that they can use at a moment's notice for a brief time, for a longer period of time. So it's something that they can use right away.
How do you define stress, and what challenges do we face when stressed that we don't face when we're not stressed? I mean, how does that affect us?
Well, we all experience some stress in our life. You know, we've got the good stress and the bad stress, the eustress and the distress. And it's when we get into distress, when we're doing too many things, usually it will show up with some people as irritability. They're snapping at their spouse, their children, their pets. They're short-tempered, or there's some type of cognitive impairment. They're not remembering things. And it can be, simply that, but then their physical effects. People have high blood pressure, they have sleep deprivation, they're not aware of what they're doing. There could be accident prone, and at its worst, if people are distracted by their stress or tired, they could have accidents where they hurt themselves or hurt others. And, depending on how bad your stress is, it could actually be fatal. It's not just the physical ailments, the high blood pressure, weight gain, weight loss, anxiety, short-temperedness, that this could actually lead to death. If you have chronic long-term stress with no relief, you're just ticking away, and it could be disastrous.
So is there a formal definition to stress that everybody agrees on what stress really is?
I don't have one. There are, but for what I've seen and what I've noticed, it manifests in so many different ways that the formal definition would just simply be that you are doing more than your body can manage, more than your emotions can manage.
So it's like a nervous tension or worry, anxiety, difficulties, hassles, any of those could cause stresses?
Well, it's the hassles of daily living. We're overwhelmed by the amount of things that we're doing. There's some sense of fear or anxiety in what we're doing, that we just have a constant nervousness or anxiety or tension. There's so many things combined in it that's why I don't, for myself, have one formal definition of it.
Would something be very good for some person and possibly stress out a different person?
Yes.
Or do you find the stress is more generic?
It can be very individual because each of us has a different threshold. Some of us get excited by doing certain things and we're fine. It fuels us. It makes us more energetic. Other people doing the same activity would feel a burnout. If you're doing, somebody could have the same job, let's say, and one person loves the job. So if that job gets busier, there's more to do, they're fine because they're ready for this. They love it. If you don't love it and, it doesn't suit your personality, your lifestyle, your physique, it's making you weaker and weaker. It's making you more irritable. The hours are too much. You feel fatigued. You're not getting enough sleep because you don't like it. You're not in a good emotional state. So it's draining you. So stress can be very personalized, very individualized.
Well, you exemplified the dangers of stress well. Are there any advantages to being stressed?
if it's to a certain point, it gets to that line. If it's acute, if it's just in the moment for the job that you're doing, that's perfectly fine. That if it's acute and it stops and you can get your rest, then it's building your what's the word I'm looking for? It's building your reserve. But if it is chronic, if it is going on and you're not getting a moment for rest or for self-care, then you're in a danger zone.
Okay. On your website, stressfreenow.info, you indicate that there's 6 best practices to lead a stress-free life. What are some of those that people could implement right away?
Well, one is self-care, and people are not always aware of that term, that it's not about being selfish. You need to know when you need rest, when you need play, when you need to take a break.
So what else can they do? I'm thinking about so many things in our environment. Sometimes just the idea of politics can stress people out, or traffic that they're in, or being in a hurry, so they're eating fast food instead of taking time to sit down and really enjoy a meal. So I'm thinking, what are some of the other things that you recommend to people that are good habits that they could get into to reduce the stress in their life?
Well, one is knowing what your priorities are. Today we have so many things that we're doing. We're traveling, we're working, we're taking care of a home or a family. So if you need to decide what's important, as opposed, this is from the Eisenhower model, what's important versus what's urgent. The other thing is, if you know what's important, then that needs to get done in the day, and the urgent, you need to put that aside. But you'll get up and you plan, I'm going to work on this project because I know it needs to be done. And then there's some crisis with your child, there's a flood in the house, the pipe broke, then you have to attend to that. But you really, if you can, you want to be able to take care of your priority first, and you need to know what that is. The other thing is, some people are very, very critical of themselves, and if you spend time criticizing yourself and blaming yourself or blaming someone else, that's wasted energy. So you need to be gentle with yourself. You need to notice what you do right, and you need to celebrate what you do right and congratulate yourself for that. One of the other things that you can do is develop a support system to know, where you can get help, whether it's professional help, someone to share the housework with. So getting support is very important, and to be clear about your needs and to express that to people. Sometimes people don't communicate, you need to tell people, I'm free at this time, I'm not free at this time. So you need to set clear boundaries. And people don't always do that. Sometimes people are just so busy rushing and they don't say, well, I can't do this at this time, but I could do this at the other time. So if you can communicate to people what you need, that's very helpful. And we forget that in the moment. We may think, oh, they know what I need, can't they see? Well, it's helpful to say it sometimes. Another thing that's really good is to celebrate. Sometimes something wonderful happens to us and we're just so busy we go to the next thing and we don't stop and pause and say, oh, wow, this is fantastic. I got this done, or I helped this person. So it's important to celebrate your successes. And some people, forget to do that. And it's important to take time off, not just to rest, but to play. We actually need to play. Sometimes we'll look at, I think little children are sometimes too busy today, but if you look at children at play, and I'm talking physical play, not necessarily, individual by themselves, but you see the joy in that. So even when we get to be adults, it's good to be able to play.
Do you find that some people have forgotten how to play? I mean, there's a lot of people that work so very, very much and haven't had free time in so long that I'm thinking maybe they forget how to play, because when they have time off, they just want to sleep or sit or veg or, then how do they remember?
I think they do, and that's part of it, to find out what is it that you like, because sometimes people forget. It's been such a long time since they've taken a break, and one of the things of modern living is the time for the commute. And if a job is hard to find, you might be traveling farther for your job than you'd like to, and unless you are someplace where you can use public transportation, you have to be alert to drive. So that's why it's important to have sleep. To drive sleep deprived and to be stuck in traffic is going to create a lot of excess tension and irritability.
I always thought those were great times for listening to books on tape, or talking with a cell-free device and catching up with people that otherwise you don't have time for because you're so busy.
Exactly. To be able to relax in those moments and not to get frustrated in those moments. That if you can keep yourself centered, whether it's doing the things that you mentioned, or just simply to know that this is what it is. It's just a volume of traffic. It is fine. It'll clear. But I think what happens is sometimes people are late and they're pressing forward. They're too close to the car in front of them. And in those moments, you have to realize, no, I'm not going anyplace. That would be a great moment to do an ideokinesis exercise, which would help reduce your tension. And it's just imagery. One of the easiest imagery, and my husband and partner loves this one, is when you imagine your head as a balloon. And you imagine your head as a balloon filled with helium, and it's light, and it just floats up. And that'll take tension out of your neck and out of your shoulders. So that's the perfect time to just unwind and relax if you see that you're not going anyplace.
The United States Air Force teaches their people to sort their to-do list into 3 different piles. What has to be done immediately, then what can wait a little bit but still needs to get done, and then those things that are nice to do if and when you ever had extra time. And that sorting was one of the first tasks, and then to start on the ones that needed to be done first. And it's not much different than like triaging in a hospital. When there's an emergency or a crisis and many people come into the hospital, they sort on who needs immediate help versus those that can wait longer, and doing it's called the triage. Do you have something like that for people with stress?
Yes. When you mentioned that, I think one of the things that Brian Tracy does, I believe he has A to E, and the delegating is one of them, but there isn't always someone to delegate to. That the must do, and the idea is to do the most difficult task first, or the unwanted task first.
Okay, let's hold that thought, doing the unwanted task first. Stay tuned to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You on xzbn.net and knowthename.com. After the break, we'll find out how Christine has used the things in her name that have assisted her that you may have in your name as well.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? I'm Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and on The Secret to Everything, we will merge the practical with open investigation into all realms of the mysterious. We will talk to cutting-edge alternative health practitioners, those who inspire and motivate you in business and life, and of course, we will share stories of the paranormal, conspiracy, and cryptozoology. You will transform because of the frequency I carry, the frequencies my guests carry. Life may never be the same after you listen to this program, for the secret to everything is for you, the listener, for those who desire more in every area of their lives and believe that it can still be found. Listen and discover thesecrettoeverything.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You. Our guest tonight is Christine Wright, whose website is stressfreenow.info. She has taken her skills to a level where she's able to assist others in leading a more stress-free life. Christine, when we spoke privately, you stated that grief is a large concern on how it affects an individual. Would you please elaborate on how grief affects somebody and how long it's natural to grieve for someone?
There is no natural time to grieve. And in grief, I wasn't particularly talking simply about the death of a loved one or a pet, but a lot of what I deal with is existential grief, of an opportunity missed, of an unkind word spoken, something that someone is holding on to long after it's initially passed because they never cleared it. They never had a chance to speak to someone that hurt them, and they're holding on to a grudge long after that person is out of their life. And it's affecting how they behave with other people or how they work. If a parent says an unkind word to a child, they remember, mom or dad said, well, you were never as bright as your brother or sister. And they're holding on to that because their parent didn't say it to them just once, they said it to them several times. And they're holding on to that, and they're not moving forward with their life. Because someone important said that to them.
What happens in the mind of a child when they grieve that's different possibly than what happens in the mind of an adult?
Children their cognitive development, depending on their age, is not concrete. They don't understand the way an adult understands. And I think sometimes, or in most cases, adults don't understand. They're assuming that a child thinks the way that they do, and they don't. They're really in a stage of magical thinking. So again, a simple one, and I think most people, or I hope most people have learned this, that telling a child, if you're speaking about death, you say they've gone to sleep, well, then the child would be afraid of going to sleep. What's the difference between going to sleep and waking up in the morning and going to sleep and dying? A child is not necessarily going to make that distinction. And then if you think that a child is too young to understand, they're never too young to understand because they see this person is not here and they don't know why. So it makes sense to not just simply talk to a child, but listen to a child, because you'll be able to discern, if you know the child well, or even if you don't, if you understand that their thinking is magical. If you listen to them, you will see where they are, and you can respond to them in their appropriate level of understanding and age. And the reason why I can't be concrete about this, it's different for different children. And you as an adult, if you know your child well and you develop those listening skills, you'll be able to gauge what your child understands and how they understand it.
One of the things that my nephew asked me after one of my older sisters passed away is he came up to me and he said, "Aunt Sharon, I want to know, since Aunt Shelley passed away and she was daughter number 2 and you're number 3, are you now number 2?
Exactly.
Which really shows, to me, he was 5, and I thought that's magical thinking, because when you stand in line, you move up one when somebody gets out of line. And my response to him was that no, we, just like 0 is held as a placeholder in numbers, we always hold a place, and she'll always be number 2 in line, and I'll always be stuck with number 3.
Right, exactly. You see, you need to know your child, because some children have a different, they can be the same age, that you'll have 2 5-year-olds and they're completely different. So it's very individual, and that's why I say it's important to listen, because you'll understand by listening as an adult, you'll be able to gauge, what does my child understand and in what way.
Before the break, you were saying that we need to do our least desirable task first. And then after we get that one out of the way, and is there special motivation to help us do that one first? And then what would we do?
Well, I know for myself, I actually don't follow that, because I need a little warm up. The shorter, easier task gets me warmed up. And if I have uninterrupted time, I can do, depending on how short they are, 5 short tasks in a half an hour. But those bigger tasks, and the reason they're undesirable is because some part of us knows this is going to take a long time and it's going to take concentrated effort, but it's going to give you the best results. So the idea, doing it first, for some people or most people, your attention is better and your energy is better. So you really want to have that in your high energy, high attention time. And for many people, that's the beginning of their day. If you know that it's not, and if you know that you're going to have time later, but that task, and that's the reason I use undesirable, it takes a longer time of concentration. And today, most people's concentration is, they have a very, very short attention span, simply because we have so many distractions and so many choices today. So that's why I call it least desirable.
I read a report once that was indicating that our attention spans were diminishing in great proportion to the same span of time between commercials on TV. That when there was a longer time between commercials, we had a longer attention span. And as that was shortened, so did our attention spans. Christine, if you could change one thing about people's understanding or how they look at the world, what would that be?
To be more forgiving, to be more tolerant, to, the word I like to use is grace. Put a little grace into the equation, that we like to hold things as precise and exact, but the world is about change for change's sake these days. And that's, I think, one of the biggest changes that causes stress, that it seems that the minute we learn something or know something, it changes, it becomes different. So you want to put a little grace into the equation, that we can no longer hold fast to something because change is constant, it's quick, and that's what causes the stress. We like to have sameness. That there are some people who are spontaneous and love change and are always looking for the next new things, but many people like to know that, Monday will always be Monday, Tuesday will always be Tuesday. But there is so much change that you just have to have a little breathing room in your heart and in your mind to be flexible.
Is there anything else that you're currently working on that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I have been stewing in my mind for some time my magnum opus, if you will, of a book. I find that many of us are not aware of our skills and our talents and our strong points and our weak points. And that was where I believe I mentioned it before. We're blaming ourselves or we're blaming others. But as we know ourselves, which is what you say, know the name, know the person. If you know yourself, then you are less likely to be stressed or to be angry. This is who I am. This is my strong suit. This is my weak suit. I play to my strengths. I try and shore up my weaknesses. So what I am working on developing and writing about is just that. Become as self-aware as you can be to know how you operate. And you don't need to blame yourself for who you are. Who you are is who you are. And you come with your unique sets of gifts, talents, strong points, weak points. And there's no reason to blame yourself or be angry at yourself that I can't do this, I can't do that. Celebrate what you can do. Look at what's right in your life and notice what works and be happy and celebrate what works and how good you are. I think, again, with the constant change, and I don't know how to do this, the traffic is bad, that we're constantly complaining. Celebrate what's right. Celebrate what's working. Notice that.
Be prepared to be surprised and pleased when you experience Christine's Wright's work, and thank you for being on our show tonight. Her website again is stressfreenow.info. Christine Wright's name excels at seeing the truth. In her name, it says that her search for what is true has helped her in assisting her clients. One of the letters that indicates the desire to search for the truth is found in the letter R. It doesn't matter where in your first or middle name that letter R is located. If your first or middle name has an R in it, you too are a seeker of the truth. Do you want to know where your genius lies? I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, host of the radio show, Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which can be heard every weekday at various hours right here on xzbn.net radio and X-Zone radio station and on knowthename.com. Tune in to hear the fascinating ways other people discovered the genius in themselves and what they were able to accomplish. In each upcoming show, you'll hear clues on how you can recognize your own innate genius. For all the days and times of Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, please go to xzbn.net and check out our broadcast schedule. If you wish to know how to read a person's name or even more about your name and how you can discover your innate genius, where your strengths are, where your talents are, and where your challenges are, visit the website knowthename.com and give yourself the gift of a session to find out what your name says about you and how knowing your name can help you to live to your best and highest. This is Sharon Lynn Wyeth, signing off.